With all the recent attacks on critical infrastructure, a lot of us are asking the question, what can we do to protect our power substations? Are there any feasible options for us to actually harden these substations to those types of attacks in the future? And the answer is probably not what you actually want to hear. And unfortunately, I'm here to tell you that in general, people like you and I are the first line of defense when it comes to making sure suspicious activity isn't happening at substations like the one I'm standing in front of right now. This one's very close to my home, and I wanted to kind of come over here and film this video to give you an idea of just how easy it is for someone like me to drive right up, post up a camera, and make this video right in front of it. There's very little security, and the security that does exist is a chain link fence. And this is pretty much the standard you're gonna find all over the country. Now, what can we do about it? Well, I can tell you on December 8th, 2022, an article from Total Shield, which is a company that produces blast and impact resistant shielding. They have rooms, Kevlar blankets, mobile barriers. They work with industries that need this stuff for pressure testing, but they have been reached out to by power companies in the past about hardening the grid, which is a good thing. Unfortunately, what they do is just way too expensive to actually utilize for these types of situations. But the article they put out was called How to Protect a Power Substation from Gunfire Attacks. And it explains all the challenges in trying to harden the grid to those types of attacks and all the possible yet unlikely solutions. And the reason those solutions are unlikely is because they're very, very expensive, okay? So, bulletproof solutions are just expensive. We know that because of things like body armor, but now imagine trying to build things around something the size of a transformer that's bulletproof and then doing it across the entire country at every single substation. It's just not cost effective. And unfortunately, that's one of the only ways to guarantee that these critical components could actually withstand gunfire. And even if they only narrowed it down to the most critical of the components necessary to keep these substations up and running, that's still a lot of money to spend. And unfortunately, even Total Shield, who would make a ton of money by getting these contracts if that's what they decided to do, thinks it's not the best idea because of how expensive it is. So what can we really do? And really quickly, I just want to mention that this channel's biggest supporter is Midway USA. And without their support, I don't know if I'd be able to come out and do some of the videos that I'm going to be doing here in the future. And I really appreciate what they're doing for me in the sense of opportunity. And I would expect some really cool gear reviews and stuff of that nature to be coming here in the near future. So big thanks to Midway USA for making sure this channel can keep moving forward. Now, what does Total Shield think is a good solution for protecting our power substations? Well, I'll tell you, their best solution is obscuring line of sight. It's the most practical and cost-effective solution. So their thought process is that if you were to cover these chain link fences with something you couldn't necessarily see through, it would stop somebody with like a rifle or something of that nature from being able to target the most critical components within the substations. I got a truck coming by here in just a second, so it's about to get loud. What I wanted to mention is that that is probably relatively effective in some ways, very cost effective, and it's something that people could do without having to hire secondary contractors or anything of that nature. So unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see it even happen because these companies aren't willing to come out and do a lot of the stuff that's being suggested, as we can already tell. These attacks are occurring no matter what, and yet I don't see any type of coverage on the fence behind me to try to obscure line of sight, which seems like a practical solution. Their other solutions were also based on deterrence, using security cameras, putting speed bumps in on the roads that are in front of these critical substations to make sure that anyone driving by or planning some type of attack would have to slow down, which gives people a better chance of getting a positive ID or whatever it would be. But either way, none of these solutions actually stop these attacks from occurring. They might make it a little bit harder to pull off, but they won't stop these people from being able to accomplish their goal. And that's exactly what we need to understand. Look, I live in a rural environment. This substation is very close to my home, and the last thing I want to see happen is me or my neighbors have to suffer without power because of some lunatic who decided I didn't need to have it anymore, right? So I'm going to go ahead and take some personal responsibility and keep an eye on this substation in the sense of just making sure there's nothing suspicious or out of character going on here. And you need to up your situational awareness, especially if you live near a substation like this one, so that you even understand what is or is not in the norm, right? If I don't pay attention to what's going on over here on a regular basis, how would I know if something suspicious was even occurring? If everything's always just normal, then I'm not going to think twice about it. But if every truck I see here is related to the electrical utility that is supposed to be here, and then one day I see a truck that doesn't seem like it fits the bill, that might raise a red flag. Now, it might not require an immediate call to the authorities, but it could at least make me want to keep an eye on what's happening over here and just keep some things in mind about the details of the vehicle so that if something did come up, I could try to describe it, right? So these are things that we can all do on our own. Is it our job? Of course it's not our job. But isn't it our best interest for our community to maintain power? I would say so. So we got to do what we got to do. We can't rely on these people, these companies, or even the government to actually do the things that they know are a problem anymore and fix them, right? We have to just sit here and understand that as people who want to be prepared, we got to do what we got to do. And this is what I'm going to try to do. And this is something I would suggest for you as well, in the sense of just being aware and kind of taking note as to what is normal activity, so you can be more aware of what is not normal activity, right? And I think that's probably the best we can hope for at this point in time. So let me know in the comments below if you have anything else to add to this, or if you have any other ideas about how communities can come together to try to make sure these types of attacks aren't occurring. And besides that, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.